interpretation or the explanation of this hadith that Gog and Magog will shoot their arrows up into the sky and they will say, we have killed those who are on earth, now let us kill those who are in the sky above. And Allah will send the arrows back down with blood on them. That perhaps this hadith applies to what the Americans coined Star Wars. Okay, it will be the sending of rockets and missiles up into the sky to try to destroy revolving military platforms up there. I don't know whether I'm using the right terminology because this is not my field of expertise. But I much prefer whether if this question could be posed to a scholar of military science. Yeah. Don't expect Imran Hosein to have all the knowledge in the world now.
Any other brothers? Other questions? You ask your second question.
Sheikh, the future of Africa in the end times, as we all know that an Ethiopian slave will destroy the Kaaba.
Yes, there is a hadith of the destruction of the Kaaba by people who will come out of Africa. Yes, I know about that. But I don't consider myself competent to comment on that hadith, no, at this time. I don't know about any special role of Africa in Akhir Zaman, other than that part of Africa which can more easily travel to join the army that will liberate Constantinople. That part of Africa, of course, will be North Africa. It will be Mauritania and Algeria and Morocco and Tunisia and Libya. Maybe Mali as well, and Niger. This part of Africa, the northern part of Africa, because they have the possibility of traveling and joining the army which will liberate Constantinople, I see that one of the reasons why NATO has taken over Libya at the loss of a lot of prestige in the world, they did it so clumsily, is because they want to block. One of the reasons why they are in Libya is that they want to block the passage of people going to join that army to liberate Constantinople. Of course, there's another reason why they're connected with the expansion, the territorial expansion of the state of Israel to encompass the part of Egypt from the river of Egypt, the River Nile, to the Red Sea. And that's why you have NATO in Libya on this land. But I have spoken on this subject several times. But I don't know of any special role of Africa beyond this. Sorry, I don't know.
Well, my question is pretty straightforward.
Who is this?
Shahid.
Shahid.
Yeah. Do we have any vague or guess calculation which is extract from the ahadith which tells us the nuzul of Antichrist, Dajjal, what time?
Yes. Yes, we do. I wrote a book on the subject. It's called Jerusalem in the Qur'an. And in Jerusalem in the Qur'an, you have the hadith pertaining to Dajjal being released on earth and on island, which identify as Dajjal. And then a day like a year, a day like a month, a day like a week, and then all his days will be like your days. This gives us not three mathematically computed time frames, but rather three periods or three stages of the mission of Dajjal. 3 stages of the mission of Dajjal. And it is possible for us to recognize that stage 1 lasted for a long, long time, and sometime during stage 1, a day like a year. I don't know when, but sometime during stage 1, Britain emerged as Pax Britannica. And Pax Britannica may have lasted for maybe 300-400 years. I'm not too sure of British history. And then came stage 2, with a day like a month, and within that time frame, United States of America eventually emerges the ruling state of Pax Americana, and we are now located at a moment in time when Pax Americana seems to me to be in irreversible decline, and I've said that for a long, long time now. And events continually unfold to confirm that my analysis is correct, that the United States is now in irreversible decline, the US dollar is now in irreversible decline, and that the 3rd stage will eventually emerge with a 3rd ruling state to replace the United States. And my opinion is that Dajjal wants Israel to replace the United States. I don't know if I'm correct, but this is my understanding, that this is what Dajjal wants, that Israel should replace the United States as a ruling state in the world, and that Israel should establish a Pax Judaica that will replace Pax Americana, and all of this is in Jerusalem in the Qur'an here. 15 years ago. All of this is in this book. 15 years ago it was published. And it was written in my head maybe about 18 years ago. I have never engaged in calculating time frame. That a day like a year lasted for so many years, and a day like a month lasted for so much, and that therefore a day like a week will last for so many years. Others have more expertise than me, let them do it. Leave me out of that. So all that I can say is that yes, we have a time frame now in which we may have already started a day like a week, and sometime during this time frame or this stage, Pax Judaica is they planning for Pax Judaica to emerge. When a day like a week comes to an end, excuse me, Dajjal will then appear in person. But before that happens, you have to have these 2 major events, which are the Malhama, or the Armageddon, the Great War, in which 99% of all those who fight, all the combatants, will be killed. And the second major event will be the conquest of Constantinople. So I don't think it is wise on my part to say how many years we have left before this and before that and before that, and to confine to myself to saying it's close. Now then, having said that, after I wrote this book on Jerusalem in the Qur'an, then I discovered the ayah in the Qur'an, in Surah Al-Mursalat, which the hadith is in harmony with that ayah. And that is, Allah speaks in Surah Al-Mursalat, and He says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ إِنْطَلِقُوا, proceed, إِلَى ظِلٍّ, towards a shadow, ذِي ثَلَاثِ شُعَبٍ, which will have 3 parts. Proceed in the historical process to a period of time in history which will be like a shadow, which will have 3 parts. And this verse of the Qur'an appears to me to be linked with that hadith. So Dajjal's 3 stages. Okay?
Brother,
Sheikh, Malcolm X said in his days that to the African peoples of America that you're born in a prison. They don't send you to a prison, you are born in a prison. And he also mentioned about a house slave and a field slave. In present scenario, does this not does this not relate to all the Muslims now, not just the African American people, but to all Muslims are like born in a prison and they're divided into a house slave and a field slave?
Those words of Malcolm X are spoken with great insight, yes. And we are today living in worse than a prison, really. Oppression is now increasing in the world. And oppression will increase. A prison is a place with oppression, yes, or punishment. But the Prophet ﷺ spoke of constantly increasing oppression, which will increase to such an extent that a man will pass by a grave and he will roll on the grave and he'll say, I wish I were in the grave rather than the dead man. Not for religious reason, but because of biting oppression. So yes, those words of Malcolm X are becoming more and more applicable today. And yes, in the same way that Islam came into the world to produce men, not schoolboys, men. Produce men who will stand up with courage and dignity and faith against the oppressor and to liberate the world from oppression. And these are the people who are slaves in the prison today, but he calls them field slaves. They recognize that they have chains, they're chained in this system, they are slaves therefore, but inside of their hearts they're free men, inside of them they're free. And because of that freedom inside of their heart, they despise the oppressor. They despise the system of oppression. And they long to get out of it and to destroy it. That's the field slave. But then you have so many others who say, well, why should I live in Pakistan? It's so poor, miserably poor. And America is rich, it's heaven itself, I should go and live in heaven. Yes. And then they look down at Pakistan and they despise Pakistan. And America is heaven. Since we are living here in America, we have to be faithful to America. So the American armed forces are our boys. Yes, that's what they are. These are our boys. This is our government. We have to be faithful to them. These are the house slaves. They are imprisoned in slavery because white America and black America are different. White America is still the slave master. And black America is still the slave. Anybody could see that. And so they are house slaves. When the slave master is ill, they say, we sick. Yes. When the slave master's house is on fire, they want to help the slave master extinguish the fire. But the field slave says, no, when the house master's house is on fire, he prays to God, send a strong breeze, burn it down. That's the kind of Muslims we have today. We have those who are house slaves and those who are field slaves. Correct? I commend you for turning to Malcolm X to teach us that.
Okay, Brother Sir.
So my question was that the Islamic mortgage system where the financial institution will buy a house and then sell it on to the customer but defer the payments and let the customer pay in installments over a long period of time. That as a concept, does it contain riba within it if you discount the actual money that we use, the riba money that we use? That is, we already know that the money is riba, but just as the concept on its own.
Okay, well you have amended your question a little bit. And I still retain my answer. Before we can turn to what is today called Islamic finance, finance is a subject in which you study how you can use money. There is another subject which comes before that, and that is what is money. The subject is what is money. And in that you study what is known as monetary economics, what is money. And I have lectured extensively and written extensively on the subject of Islamic monetary economics to argue so often that people are now fed up of listening to me, that the monetary system that we now have in the world, all around the world, is bogus, it's fraudulent, it's haram. Yes. It's now paper money, which came out of Bretton Woods and the International Monetary Fund, and which prior to that had emerged in the early 17th century from the 17th century from the Bank of England. If you agree with me that the money that you're using is bogus and fraudulent and haram, the implication which will follow is that all transactions using this money will all be fraudulent and haram. Good. Having disposed of that, we can now turn. If a house is being sold for 100 dinars, we're not using bogus and fraudulent money. A house is being sold, say, for 1,000 dinars. And a dinar, of course, is a golden coin. A dinar is not made of paper. And you do not have the money to buy the house, cash. If an institution comes along and says, no problem, we will buy the house for you, cash, and we will then sell it to you. And provided that the buyer and the seller are agreed on the selling price, which will involve some measure of profit for the one who bought the house, then this is called a murabaha transaction, where both parties know the measure of profit or the extent of profit. This is a halal transaction, yes, if it is a cash transaction. But if the financial institution buys the house for 1,000 dinars and then sells it to me for 2,000 dinars, okay, and they're not selling it to me cash, they're selling it to me for credit, then what is the market value of the house? If the market value of the house, which has just been bought yesterday, is 1,000 dinars, why would I pay 2,000 dinars for it when I can buy it for 1,000? There's only one honest answer to that question. All the rest belong to Disneyland. The reason why I'm prepared to pay 2,000 dinars to buy the house when it is available for 1,000 dinars is because I'm not buying it cash. I'm being given time to pay. If money can increase over time, then that is riba. That's the classical definition of riba. That money increases over time by itself, that is riba. So this is not murabaha. It would be murabaha if I'm buying the house cash. But if I'm paying cash 2,000 for what can be bought for 1,000, someone should make an appointment for me to meet with someone called a psychiatrist. Yeah. Because I'm not right in my head. Yeah. The reason why I'm buying for 2,000 when I can buy for 1,000 is I'm being given time. So in Islam, cash price and credit price must remain the same. You cannot have a credit price that is higher than a cash price for the same article. The difference between the credit price and the cash price would be riba.
It's an honour to actually meet you. I wanted to ask, with the advent of the cryptocurrencies now on the horizon, how as Muslims are we able to counteract this because money's been taken out of the equation? They're trying to push for the cryptocurrencies which has no basis because it's been known as being fraudulent because we don't even know who the actual owner of the cryptocurrencies is. So how is it as Muslims are we going to be able to avoid being drawn into this another fraudulent Ponzi scheme?
Good. We already have a sorry history of being deaf, dumb and blind as Muslims for the last 100 years. So it should be no surprise if we should all be drawn and sucked into cryptocurrencies because we still remain deaf, dumb and blind, like cattle. The paper money currency has been with us for 100 years now. And how few there are in India, how few there were scholars of Islam in India 100 years ago who stood up and declared this is bogus, this is fraudulent, this is haram, don't do it, stay with your gold and silver. They were very few. And their names are now forgotten. Nobody knows them, nobody cares for them. And the establishment, the established ulama, the institutions of learning that we had, they all betrayed us. All of them betrayed us. And so we went into paper money currency, hook, line and sinker. Yes, like a bunch of monkeys or donkeys with no sense in our head. Nobody questioned the International Monetary Fund. Nope. Nobody used the intelligence, the intellect that Allah gave to them. The capacity to think, to look at the articles of agreement of the International Monetary Fund. The Darul Uloom didn't want to see that at all. That doesn't belong to us. That's what the Darul Uloom did. And so we stayed very comfortable with the paper money until we became slaves, which is what we are today. And then when we became slaves, everybody abandoned Pakistan and abandoned Egypt and abandoned Indies. Who wants to live in Jahannam? And everybody come to live in Jannah. Yeah? As the Prophet said that we would do. So now it is almost absolutely certain that the overwhelming majority of the cattle we now have in the world of Islam will all join cryptocurrencies. Yeah, all of them. But there will always be some who want to be faithful to the truth. Yes. Who cannot be bought by not even a mountain of gold, you can't buy them. It is these very few, in the hadith they're said to be 1 in 1,000, who will ask the question, is the cryptocurrency halal or haram? And if you want to know what is halal and haram, where do you start? Is it CNN or the New York Times? Huh? If you want to know what is halal and haram, you go where? First to the book of Allah. Yes. To the Qur'an. And you ask in the Qur'an, what is money? And the Qur'an will tell you that in order for it to be money, it must have intrinsic value. The value of the money must be in the money. Whatever it is, it must have intrinsic value. And then you ask yourself whether paper money has any intrinsic value. No, it does not. None. The only value that paper money has is fictitious. Yeah. It's extra outside. Maybe in the pocket of George Soros. So the cryptocurrencies will be even less. Less validity than the paper money. As being anything that is money. It's actually bogus and fraudulent and haram, no matter how they try to dress it up with a pagri and a dari and call it by some religious names. The fatwa will come soon enough, yes. it will be, no matter how convenient it may be that you can bypass the banking system, you could send money to and fro so easily now. And then Malaysia joins the pack and makes cryptocurrency, bitcoins, legal tender. And Iran joins the pack and say, okay, we also want to do the same thing. And Russia joins the pack, and Venezuela joins the pack, and China joins the pack because they want to get away from American sanctions, you know, all of them. But you and I, who want to be faithful to the truth which has come from Allah, you and I will say, no, unless and until money has intrinsic value, we do not recognize it as money. No. And one of the ways in which you can offer at least a micro response, because the macro is not possible, is to buy gold and silver coins, or try to buy the raw gold and silver and mint the coins, and then retreat to the remote countryside and build small markets, I call them micro markets, and at least you will buy your daily sustenance using that dinar and dirham. Yeah.
Dear Sheikh, an idea might be, because in Russia, and I think it's in China rather than Russia, you can actually invest in businesses there and then change your money to gold if you would like. They will exchange your currency to gold. So if we maybe try to even do business in countries where we can actually have, instead of having money or any Bitcoin in return, you could have gold in return?
Nothing stops you now. I don't think the law prevents you from changing your bogus money and buying gold and silver. I don't think you are prohibited.
But to invest in those countries...
I do not use the word, I will not use the word invest. You do not invest. You do not invest in money. No. You do not make a business transaction by buying money. No. What you're doing is changing your bogus money to halal money.
Yes.
That does not qualify as an investment. No. You're not buying gold to see the gold appreciate in value and then you sell the gold and make a profit. No, you're buying gold because you want to conform with what is halal. That is why you're buying gold. So please do not use the word invest or investment when you seek to buy gold and silver, particularly when you're a Muslim. You're buying the gold and silver so long as it is available. You can buy it. But tomorrow I believe that they will make laws prohibiting you from buying gold and silver and from keeping gold and silver. I think around the world the governments will do that. Then what do you do? Did this happen before?
Yes.
It happened in the United States of America. What did the American government do in 1933? They banned the use of gold as money. You had to sell your gold to the US government at $20 an ounce, and you had a certain amount of time. And if after that they caught you with gold, they could charge you $10,000 in fine and send you to prison for 6 months. Okay? I have a book entitled Prohibition of Riba in the Qur'an and Sunnah, and in that book you'll see the proclamation of the US government. The gold, not jewelry, gold coins and gold certificates and bullion, to the Federal Reserve at $20 an ounce. They gave the gold and they took the paper. And the smart Americans had shipped their gold to Switzerland. Then what did the US government do? It changed the price of gold from $20 an ounce to $35, meaning it devalued the paper. And then it removed the ban. And the Americans could now buy back their gold. But now, at the end of it, they've lost 41% of their gold. Through this process of devaluing paper money, you're able to have a massive transfer of wealth. But of course the very learned ministers of finance of Pakistan, and the governors of the central bank and the economists in the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Economic Planning and so on, who got their PhDs in the United States and Britain, they don't know nothing about this. They're just like monkeys, selling out Pakistan for all these years, while they have their mansions in Miami and in Los Angeles and so on. They're rich, betraying the people with their PhDs. This is what the money has done. You have ripped off the people. So they can ban the use of gold. They did it already. And when the master, the slave master, lays down the law, all of these chickens will come to roost. All of them will say, okay, we agree. And Pakistan will ban the use of gold, and India will ban the use of gold, and Algeria will ban the use of gold, and Mauritania, everybody. Like a bunch of monkeys. Because they said a girl cannot be married until she's 18. And guess what the bunch of monkeys did? All around the world. Or should I say a bunch of jackasses? All around the world. All around the world. The parliament comes, the National Assembly comes, this comes. A girl cannot be married until she's 18. All around the world. This bunch of jackasses. That's what they are. So tomorrow they will ban gold. So even if you bought dinar and dirhams, they'll come to seize it from you. Which is why there's some guidance in Surah Al-Kahf. What is it? Huh? What is the guidance in Surah Al-Kahf?
Move to the countryside.
Huh?
Move to the countryside.
With your gold and silver, what do you do?
You bury it.
That's right. That's right. There's so much wisdom in Surah Al-Kahf, because if you bury it and you have a structure built on top of it, when they come with their machines to check for gold underneath the ground, they won't be able to find it. See, Surah Al-Kahf. Yeah. That's my answer to your question, yeah.
Okay, brothers and sisters, we're just going to take a 15 minutes break in Q&A, and we'll obviously continue shortly after that.
Very good. So I want to make a few more comments on cryptocurrencies and paper money before we turn to another subject. 3 times in the Qur'an, Allah has prohibited what today is recognized as inflation. The constantly increasing prices in consequence of the falling value of money. That's inflation today. And through this process of inflation, people are ripped off of their wealth. 3 times in the Qur'an, Allah has commanded. He says, وَأَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. One way, do not deprive people, do not diminish the value of people's property and wealth and so on. أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. One way in which you can diminish the value of people's property and the value of the thing, their labor and so on, is through the corruption of money. When we use that money which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordained, and which is most certainly in the Sunnah, we use money which had intrinsic value, and money then successfully functioned not only as a medium of exchange for buying and selling, not only as a measure of value, what price you should pay for this and for that, but most importantly as a store of value, so that if you went to sleep with some money in your pocket, And with that money you could buy a plate of biryani. And you slept for 300 years. When you woke up after that sleep, you could still take that money and go and buy the plate of biryani. Because the money has functioned successfully as a store of value in Surah Al-Kahf of the Qur'an. Good. But if after 300 years you can no longer buy even a grain of rice with that money, then you've been ripped off with the money. This is what the Qur'an is talking about when it says, وَلَا تَبْخَسُ النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. You work for a whole month and you get a salary. And with that salary you could buy a camel. And then something happens to the money and suddenly you can no longer buy a camel with your money, you can only buy a donkey. You're feeling like a donkey now. You've been ripped off. And then tomorrow you could no longer buy a donkey, you could only buy a chicken. Huh? This is what the Qur'an is talking about, inflation. I went in Iran in February of this year. I traveled to Iran to attend a conference on Jerusalem. And when the conference was over, I stayed back for a whole week. I had heard about an Ayatollah in Iran who had denounced the monetary system. And there are very few of the Ayatollahs in Iran who even know anything about money. I've met them. I've met the most learned among them. So when I heard about this man, I said, I want to meet him. So they arranged for me to go to the city of Qom to meet with Ayatollah Khairi Shirazi. When I reached to his home, there was a very simple, humble home with 3 stairs. And I had to climb up these stairs with my bad knee, so it was painful. When I reached to the top, there was a nice carpet. They all sit on the carpet, no chairs, no tables and so on. And some of his senior students were there waiting. They wanted to be present for this encounter, this exchange of views. So I sat down waiting for just a little while before the Ayatollah came. And he came and sat down next to me on the floor. And he held my hands in his hands and he would not release my hands. No. He kept on holding my hands. And he's 81 years of age and I am 75. So I found this to be something very kind and gentle of the Ayatollah, to be kept on holding my hands. Not accustomed to this. So he put me at ease. And then he said, okay, I'm going to show you through a process of a demonstration what I mean about this monetary system being bogus and fraudulent and haram. So he orders his students to bring a jar or jug of lemonade and another jug of pure water and a few glasses that were empty glasses. Then he poured some of the lemonade for me, a little bit in a glass so I could taste very nice, tasty lemonade. Then guess what he did? He took the first glass and he poured 3/4 of lemonade and he added 1/4 of water. Then he took this glass and he poured it into another glass, 3/4, and another 1/4 of water. So he's diluting and diluting and diluting the lemonade. When he reached the little glass, he said, now taste. I could hardly taste any lemonade. He said, that's what they've done with money. The Ayatollah, in a simple demonstration of the dilution of lemonade, was able to teach the subject more brilliantly than I had with my lectures for 20 years. This is the wisdom. This was the wisdom of Ayatollah Hairi Shirazi. And 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, I got the news that he died. Shirazi. I felt very, very sad to learn of the death of this wonderful, humble gentleman who was such an eminent, learned Ayatollah, and who will teach you a lesson the way prophets would teach. Yeah? MashaAllah. This is what paper money has done. And it is in manifest conflict with the Qur'an. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. And after 1971, there was no pretense of any lemonade anymore. After 1971. Because up to 1971, there was still a little bit of lemonade, which was the provisions in the Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund that the US dollar was redeemable in gold at $35 an ounce to central banks. So you're still a little bit of lemonade. But when France challenged them, they backed out. And they reneged on their obligation under international law. And after that, no lemonade, no even pretense of a lemonade. And 1971 came and go, and no alim, no scholar of Islam, none stood up and said this is bogus and fraudulent and haram. There's no lemonade now, it's only water. That's no institution of learning in the world. It made no difference whether you are Sunni or Shia. It made no difference whether you're Sufi or Salafi. It made no difference whether you're Deobandi or Brelvi. All of them were silent. None stood up and said. And that is 1971. In quite a while, since 1971. And then in 1974 came the petrodollar, where now it's oil being used. And King Faisal was taken for a ride, yes. He didn't know the subject, yeah. But I wanted to make this comment to you, to try to take you back to the Qur'an. وَلَا تَبْخَسُوا النَّاسَ أَشْيَاءَهُمْ. That you are using money in such a way that people are being ripped off, and this is haram in the Qur'an.
Thank you, Sheikh. Brother Shoki, do you want to ask a question?
There is hadith which say إذا تبايعتم بالعينة رضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد في سبيل الله يسلط الله عليكم ذلا لن يرفعه حتى تعودوا إلى دينكم. The scholars, they say إذا تبايعتم بالعينة, if you buy and you sell by the عينة, the word عينة, even the Arabs, they need someone to explain. The majority of the
I'm not familiar with this hadith.
With the hadith.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. And I'm not going to comment.
Hadith, the Prophet he mentioned three things, which if we do it, we will be humiliated in the end time. He said, إِذَا تَبَايَعْتُمْ بِالْعِينَةِ, if you buy and sell by the aina, and the majority of the scholars, they explain, the aina is kind of riba, but no one can explain it clearly which kind of riba. And today we buy and we sell with this currency.
What is the meaning of the word ina?
Ina, this is what I want to ask, because the word ina is even the scholars which they study.
Are you familiar, Maulana?
تبايعتم بالعينة ورضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد في سبيل الله يسلط الله عليكم ذلا لن يرفعه حتى تعودوا إلى دينكم. This is the hadith. One of the three things is if you buy and sell by the aina, and all the scholars they say buy and sell with riba, and today we buy and sell with currency. My question is, if this currency shown clear that this is the riba which
It is, most certainly, without a shadow of a doubt. The paper money that we are using is riba in the sense that it is being used for riba.
I'm asking this hadith because it looks like they are hiding it.
Yeah, I have never...
He's showing clear that he said if you do this, if you buy and sell by the riba, Allah will humiliate us till we come back to
You
our
have
religion.
my email address? You don't have my email address.
No, but I can have it.
Right, so Ashraf will give you my email or
I will send
Hussein.
you hadith.
Can you send me the hadith with the Arabic text?
I think
Hadith, which book?
we'll find it in Bukhari.
Bukhari.
Yeah,
You sure?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, we'll just move on to the next question, Sheikh. This question will be by Brother Hosein, I'm sorry. Asir.
I wanted to ask something about this. Sheikh, back in the days, the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhu used to pray two rakat namaz nafil, and the cloud used to come and it's rain on their place. Now we need 1000 rakat but nothing happened. His barakah is gone because of not using gold and silver.
We have betrayed the Qur'an in many more things. Yes, many more things, not just in money. When last have you seen someone performing wudu? Huh? Have you ever seen the way wudu is performed today? Huh? When people no longer use a container, they now use a tap. I would think that most people in London today, when they go to the masjid for salat, nearly everybody uses a tap, and you hardly ever find anyone using a container. Is that correct?
No one.
Yeah. No one is using a container anymore. So do you see them open the tap, hold their hand and close it up?
No.
Have you ever seen that?
Fully lost.
Huh?
Fully lost.
But that is the sunnah. You should open the tap, fold your hand and close the tap. Use this amount of water to make wudu. That is the sunnah. If you did not use the tap, you dip with your hand and get that amount of water.
Chullu bhar pani is called in Urdu.
This is the sunnah. Okay? And you cannot find anyone, none, performing the sunnah today. Nobody. It's time for you to open your eyes. Go check out what is the sunnah of wudu. Okay? How is wudu performed? And if I no longer have a container and I have to use a tap, how should I conform with the sunnah if I'm using a tap? Allah sent down mankind on earth. He says to the angels, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. So in human history, at the very top, the most important subject in human history is the state and government and rule and system of law. That is up at the top. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Good. And if you had any doubt in your mind as what did Allah mean when He used the word Khalifa, along comes the ayah, Ya Dawood, Inna ja'alnaka khalifatan fil ard. Now I'm pointing you as Khalifa, what is your function? Fahkum bayn al-nas bil-haq. Establish hukum, hukuma, governance, law, rule on the basis of truth. Around the whole world today, this has been repudiated. Yes, the whole world of Islam repudiated. And around the whole world of today, thanks partly to Muhammad Iqbal, we now have the Republican state. Yeah. And he says to his eternal, sorrow, really, to use a mild word. He said that the Republican state is an adequate substitute for the Khilafah. And if you don't believe me, go and look in his book. You'll find it there, The Reconstruction of Religious Thought Islam. So Allah is no longer Al-Hakam. No, the supreme authority. The state is now the supreme authority. Allah is no longer Al-Malik, the sovereign. The state is now the sovereign. Allah is no longer Al-Akbar, the supreme, the Security Council of the United Nations organization is Al-Akbar, because it has the supreme authority in the world. Yeah. When the Security Council says stand up, Pakistan has to stand up. Yeah. And if the Security Council says sit down, Pakistan has to sit down. Yeah. That is the implication of being a member of the United Nations organization. So we have betrayed Allah and His Messenger, and yet we take the drum and we beat Pakistan ka matlab kya, la ilaha illallah. I have to control my anger and not use violent language. May Allah help me to cool down my anger, okay? We have betrayed Allah and His Messenger. All over, the betrayal is monstrous. But the good news is while the elders are stuck in concrete, we can see the youngsters now waking up and willing to learn. And this is why I'm so happy to be in Britain. Because I'm seeing here in Britain what I'm not seeing elsewhere. I'm seeing young people coming out of your Darul Ulooms in Britain, and bright young people, not like in Pakistan, you know. When he cannot go abroad to study, then he go to a Pakistani university. And when he cannot get into a Pakistani university or college, he can't go anywhere, then he go to a Darul Uloom. At least you get Kada and Pina in the Darul Uloom, right? And you could graduate and get a little job as an Imam or Muezzin. So the scum, the least intelligent, not the scum, the ones who are least intelligent, they have the least profile, they are the ones who come to study in the Darul Uloom. And the brightest of all, they go out to Oxford. But mashallah, I have found here in Britain that you have graduates from the Darul Uloom who are bright, who have open minds, and who are willing to learn. Yes. So I have some hope now. When Allah calls me away, I'll have some hope in my heart that we can look forward to tomorrow when it will be better than today. Before I end, there's a hadith. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah for this hadith. I wish I could translate it in Urdu. You must give me the Urdu for it so I can quote it in Urdu for Pakistan. He said, my ummah is like the rain. I don't know which shower is better, the first or the last. MashaAllah, MashaAllah, MashaAllah for this hadith. So I'm happy to see the young ones here in Britain showing this kind of energy, intellectual energy, and this capacity, this open mind to study and to learn. They're not taking stones and throwing at me now, not here in Britain. Rather, they're flocking to me, they're hungry to study, and may Allah keep me alive just to learn, to teach them, yes.
Thank you, Sheikh, for that question. Next question is, got it written here on a paper. The role of Amir Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. Your thoughts on him?
I believe it is no longer a matter of any doubt in the minds and the hearts of the Ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that Amir Muawiyah departed from the conduct of his predecessors in a very important way and to the everlasting detriment of the Ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. I think I am on solid foundations when I say that he wanted his son to succeed him. if I'm wrong, I would like to get the evidence to support the view that I am wrong. And I think that I am on solid grounds when I say that the grandson of the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, Sayyidina Imran Hosein radiallahu ta'ala anhu, had the wisdom, the knowledge, the insight to be able to see and to recognize that this was a dangerous departure from the way of those who had preceded him. And this would cause great damage to succeeding generations. And that he then resisted this succession for this round. If I'm wrong, I am subject to be corrected, yes. And I would like to put it into record that I hold the view that Sayyidina Imran Hosein was correct. Yes, he was correct. If I have to pay a price for that, I'm prepared to pay the price. Good. If the following that I have just explained in very simple language and very plain language is correct, then we were correct when we excluded Ma'awiyah, Amir Ma'awiyah from the Khulafa al-Rashidun. I don't think I need to speak more.
Thank you, Sheikh, for the answer. Next question is to Brother Abdullah. Is it Abdul? Abdul, do you want to ask a question?
Some time ago, Sheikh, you spoke about the hadith of the surrounding of Ya'juj Ma'juj with the Isa alayhi salam and so on. And there's part of this, I believe it's part of this speech in which you also said that they conquer the earth, and then they say we have conquered everybody on earth, we are now going to conquer those who are in the heavens, and they fire their arrows into the air. And you said that at that point you were unsure what that part meant. Is there any, since then, have you...
Yes, someone asked that question before you came.
Okay.
And I said, I don't have the knowledge of military science. All I could say is this appears to me to what the Americans describe as Star Wars, okay? Shooting your rockets up into the sky and so on, to try to damage revolving platform, military platforms circling the earth. But someone who has a knowledge of military science, up-to-date military science, would better be in a position to comment on this hadith here. I know the limits of my own thought here.
Okay, Brother, what's your name again, sorry?
Question.
Okay, good.
Sheikh, what it does is when they fire the nukes in the sky, the earth, it sends only gamma rays, it does not destroy the earth's atmosphere. That sends gamma rays down to the earth, and everything which works on electronics is fried, so electricity does not work on the earth. This is what happens when you nuke the space.
Yes, we had a seminar in Geneva in August of 2015 when Pieros and Giorgio joined with me on the subject of preparing for nuclear war. And he made this point, that you'll achieve more by exploding a nuclear device in the atmosphere than on the earth. Yes, he explained this very carefully, that the exploding a nuclear device in the atmosphere will cause every single thing that is electronic to stop working for miles and miles and miles all around us. Okay.
Sheikh, I've got a return question here, just bear with me. What is your opinion on recently the United Nations vote on Jerusalem more than 100 countries voting against Israel, and America and only 9 voting in favor. Contrary to that, also India.
The General Assembly vote you're talking about, not the Security Council.
Yes, you were united.
The Security Council was 14-0. 14-0. 14-4 and the United States are vetoing. The General Assembly was 129 in favor and 9 against, with something like 30-something abstaining. I've not had the time to do the kind of research work that a student of international relations would have to do. I'd have to go and examine each one of those countries which abstained. Each one of those countries which voted and are in a precarious economic condition and are dependent on US aid, and yet they voted in favor of the resolution. For that you need some time, and I've not been able to find the time to do that as yet. So I really cannot offer a critical comment, although it's a very interesting subject for research, yes.
Okay, thank you for that, Sheikh.
Before we conclude, however, that I have to give credit to Erdogan of Turkey. Although I am uncomfortable with him in many things, where credit is due, you must give credit. It was very sensible on his part, very intelligent, to call for a summit conference of the Islamic countries, Islamic Summit Conference in Istanbul, and to do that before going to the General Assembly. Once he had that conference in Istanbul, and you had a resolution coming out of that conference to support all the previous conferences. They have a long history of Islamic Summit conferences, and they've always put resolutions on this subject. The first Islamic Summit Conference occurred when?
1974.
February 1974 is the second in Lahore.
First one in Marrakesh, yes.
The first one was not in Marrakesh, it was where? In Rabat.
In Rabat, yeah.
Yeah, Rabat. When?
72, I believe. 71.
September 1969.
Oh.
Pedais nahi hota. In August of 1969, a Zionist Jew went into Masjid al-Aqsa and lit a fire which burned down the mimbar which had been built and donated to the masjid by Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi. Okay. The whole mimbar was destroyed by fire. Only the mimbar. The destruction of just the mimbar of Masjid al-Aqsa was enough to bring the whole world of Islam together. And King Faisal called for a summit conference, and it took place in Rabat in Morocco. The Zionist world did all that they could to try to prevent the conference from taking place, and then to try to water it down. And they used the Shah of Iran to do that, to water it down, to make sure that you don't have any strong resolution coming out of the conference. But the conference did take place in '69. And then the Zionists did all they can to ensure it never repeated. Never repeated. So when the attack on Masjid al-Aqsa took place in '69, it produced the Summit Conference. And then came the war of 1973 and the oil boycott, and the price of oil rising from $3 a barrel to $12 a barrel, and the Arabs now having a 400% increase in their wealth. And then it was the political genius of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto who recognized the importance of this moment. and he acted swiftly. If he did not act so swiftly, he would not have succeeded. And then you had this Lahore Islamic Summit Conference with a focus on economic development in the world of Islam. But they didn't forget Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem. So, and every subsequent summit conference, I think they must have had about 15 or 12 already, every subsequent Islamic summit conference has always had a resolution on Jerusalem. So when Erdogan called for the summit conference, and he did it was right timing, the timing was excellent. They had no way to stop it, none, because his timing was perfect. The schoolboy who is now this crown prince in Saudi Arabia probably couldn't digest his dinner because there was nothing he could do to stop it. Saudi Arabia chose not to send any top-level person to conference because Saudi Arabia recognized that they were outmaneuvered by Turkey. Yeah. Turkey wants leadership of the world of Islam. Saudi Arabia wants leadership of the world of Islam, the two of them competing. And Erdogan was able to outmaneuver Saudi Arabia. So once he had that successful summit conference in Istanbul and the resolutions which were adopted on Jerusalem, it made it a little easier for those Muslim countries which were members of the OIC and members of the UN and who were poor and who were dependent on US aid to stand up and say no and vote in favor of the resolution. Egypt, for example, Egypt voted against Trump. I think some of the credit therefore must go to Erdogan of Egypt. Yes, next question.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Sheikh. Next question, Siraj.
Go on. Sheikh, have you had any more dreams about nuclear war?
Yes, I had, I think maybe one or two other dreams on nuclear war, which has only confirmed to me that it's only a matter of time. It's coming. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheikh. So, Shoaib?
No, nothing very special, just regarding the curiosity. What's the future you are seeing about Pakistan?
What?
What is the future of Pakistan you are seeing? In the
We
long
must
run?
always look at long term and short term. Long term, I see no future for Pakistan. Long term, I see the future for the Khilafah. Okay? Khilafah. And so those who hook their wagon to Pakistan and say, Pakistan, live or die, I am for Pakistan, I'm sorry for them. But if you hook your wagon to the Qur'an, you're safe. All right? That's long term. And the Muslims of that subcontinent have the capacity to play a strategic role in Akhir Zaman is clear to me because Dajjal has consistently attacked them. From day one they've been attack. And it is such a sorrowful thing. It pains me so much that Dajjal should have succeeded in getting a man like Dr. Muhammad Iqbal to also do things that was beneficial to Dajjal. Yes, I feel so pained to say it because I have so much love for Iqbal. I have so much admiration for his scholarship. He was such a brilliant scholar and a brilliant thinker. So all that I can say is I don't think that there was anything hypocritical in the heart of Iqbal. There was hypocrisy or there was kufr and these things in the heart. I have to say, however, painfully so, that I think he was taken for a ride. This is the best that I can say for him. He was taken for a ride. I don't want to say anything worse than that, no. Pakistan in the short term, it is pleasing to me that the Pakistan armed forces, at least, I don't know about the Pakistan government, is beginning to realize that Russia is a more faithful friend than the United States could ever be. And when a Russian government keeps its word, it'll keep its word. You can't say the same for Washington. Yeah. If the Pakistan armed forces were to continue on this path, I think they will win the hearts of the Pakistani people. The Pakistani people love Islam. They have been denied the freedom to have a government of their own for all through their history. The governments of Pakistan have always been made in Washington. And anyone who stood up to Washington was always assassinated. This is why I pray that Allah might keep Imran Khan alive. I have never met with him, but he was an honest cricketer. And I believe an honest cricketer will be better than the crooked politicians that they have in Pakistan. They are so crooked, I don't know how they can walk. They should have a walking stick to walk. So crooked they are. And the Pakistani people know that. But they go in this stupid thing called elections, and they sell their votes, they sell their votes like cattle. And these people keep on going. And of course they are rigged elections. That's why they have secret balloting. So that you can rig an election. That's why you have secret balloting. So in the short term, I'm happy to see the armed forces of Pakistan, at least, not the government, showing some sensibility now, some intelligence. They're drawing closer to Russia and recognizing Russia to be a more faithful friend and ally than Washington.
Thank you, Sheikh, for your answer there. What we'll do, we'll just take a 15 minutes break on Q&As. And once we return, we'll do the last session for maybe 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, 30 minutes, last session, and then we'll continue with the last session for about 30 minutes or so. We'll have 15 minutes break now. Okay?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Bismillahi awwaluhu wa akhiruh. Okay, we have our last session now tonight for this day of ours in Birmingham in Britain. And I'm happy to be with you and happy to try to help with you with your questions. So who's next?
Okay, so thank you, Sheikh. Next question will be asked by...
Maulana, what's your opinion on Fethullah Gulen and the feud between him and Erdogan? Any opinion?
What is my opinion of the Sheikh, the Sufi Sheikh, Fethullah Gulen, and his relationship with the president of Turkey, Erdogan? I don't think I know enough about this scholar of Islam and this Sufi Sheikh Fethullah Gulen to be able to offer a learned comment on him. I do know that Erdogan used to be his disciple, and that they were all perhaps disciples of Najmullah Erbakan, was his name? Najmuddin, sorry. The former leader of Turkey, Najmuddin Erbakan, who died. And that there was a parting of ways between the two men, between Erdogan and Gulen. It remains for me a mystery. It seems to me as though there is so much between the lines that I don't know about, of the actual story of what happened 1 year ago when an attempted coup d'etat took place in Turkey. And Erdogan escaped and triumphed, and he blamed Fethullah Gulen for it. Russia tipped off Erdogan about the coup d'etat. And as a consequence of that tipping off, from that moment Erdogan now became more inclined towards turning towards Russia. And he then went to Moscow himself and apologized to Russia for the shooting down of the Russian aircraft, which was a condition that Russia had. And since then he has been moving closer and closer to Russia. He has effectively given up his plan for Syria after rivers of blood had flowed, and he realized that he could not succeed in Syria. So he gave up his plan for Syria now, and he has joined with Turkey and with Iran and with Russia in now trying to build a triangle, Russia, Turkey and Iran, to resolve the problem of Syria, and they have largely succeeded so far. I don't know, I'll probably have to wait until the next world to know the full story of that attempted coup d'etat, which resulted in such a fundamental change in Turkish foreign policy. Yeah.
Thank you, Sheikh Imran Nazar. Next question will be...
There's a hadith that I could be wrong about, I will not be quoting it like properly, that a man will be a mu'min in the day and a kafir in the night, and a mu'min in the night and a kafir in the day. How can we know that, am I not that person who is affected by it?
The hadith is that a man will go to sleep as a mu'min and wake up as a kafir. And a man will wake up as a mu'min and go to sleep as a kafir. It is not to be understood literally. No. It is a hadith which qualifies as delivering the mother of all warnings to you. That events are going to unfold so rapidly and so universally in the world, which are directed towards your faith, to destroy your faith, to misguide you, that it is going to be a very dangerous world in which to live. That's my first comment. But because of another hadith, I have come to the conclusion that the greater the danger exists, the greatest dangers exist in cities, and the minimum dangers exist in the remote countryside for those who want to preserve faith. So this is a hadith which we should consider very carefully when we choose to decide to continue to live in the big cities. We are risking losing our faith. Yeah.
Sheikh. Next question.
Okay, I had one quick. Go on, you go ahead.
You said earlier on that Pax Britannica lasted for about 300 to 400 years, and since Pax Americana probably won't even last 100 years, would it be right to say that Pax Judaica will be even shorter, since it goes from a day that's like a year to a month?
I do not recall ever having said that Pax Britannica lasted for so many years. If you could kindly send me the evidence. I have never said it.
When you were asked the question,
No, I have never said that Pax Britannica lasted for so many years. It seems to me that, yes, you're right. It seems to me that Britain, so I never said that a day like a year lasted for so many years. I never said that, never. But you're right, Pax Britannica could not have lasted for more than 300 to 400 years. That's easy to say. But a day like a year, I've never said how long it lasted. Never. Spain was a more powerful country than Britain. Portugal was a more powerful country than Britain. And the Pope divided the world between Spain and Portugal. Half for Spain and half for Portugal. And the Pope, of course, is infallible. He doesn't make mistakes. And then Holland was a more powerful country than Britain. Germany was a more powerful country than Britain. They were all rivals with Britain. France was a rival with Britain. And it was only after Britain began to establish her naval dominance, and started taking control strategically important naval ports around the world. I think only then could you see the beginnings of a Pax Britannica. And of course Pax Britannica lasted only until when the First World War took place. It was plain. By the time of the First World War it was plain. Britain was no longer the ruling state of the world. If the United States had not intervened, Britain would have been defeated in the First World War. Yeah. So yes, you're correct that Pax Britannica lasted for about 300 to 400 years, and maybe one of the bright students here in Britain will be able to refine that and look to see exactly how much time, a more precise time frame than I am giving now. I'm just saying about 300 to 400 years, because I've not done the research. And Pax Americana, you can see America. I'm not saying how long a day like a month was, I don't know. But within that time frame, yes, Pax Americana emerged. And by the time of the First World War, Pax Americana was already establishing its credentials. Okay, Pax Americana. If the United States had not intervened in the First World War, Britain would have been defeated. So when do we clearly find evidence that Pax Britannica has now come? It will have to be sometime between the First and the Second World War. All right, but that's for another scholar, not for me. And now we're seeing the evidence that Pax Americana is on the decline. And it must be tremendously embarrassing to the United States of America that the man who they had contemptuously referred to as a little rocket man, he has audaciously slapped the Americans on their face every time they opened their mouth. Every time they opened their mouth, he slapped them on their face. And they could do nothing except go to the Security Council for another resolution on economic sanctions. They can't shoot a single bullet at him. Not one. Only economic sanctions. And over there you can vote for economic sanctions, and underneath the table you could pass to Korea whatever they want to pass. Yeah. So, paper resolutions. They passed so many sanctions on Russia. Russia is still alive and prospering. They put sanctions on Iran. Iran is still there. Good. So you can put all these sanctions on Korea, but there are those in the world who will be able to go underneath the table and give the Koreans, so they will be able to survive. Yeah. So it must be tremendously embarrassing to the Pax Americana. The little rocket man could put them to shame. The writing is on the wall. Pax America is in decline. Okay? But I don't think that we can write off Pax Americana while the US dollar is still the international currency. We have to see the collapse of the US dollar, and I believe that cryptocurrency has come to ensure that the US dollar has what may be called a soft landing. They don't want to crash. They'll cause chaos in the United States and anarchy and civil war, because Americans have guns. Oh yes, they have lots of guns all around, and you can't take it away from them. No. So if the US dollar were to crash, it could result in anarchy in the United States. So they have to ensure that the US dollar has a soft landing, And that's why they have this cryptocurrency at this time. I think the first and most important function of cryptocurrencies and bitcoins and so on is to demolish the US dollar, but to do so that it has a soft landing. I don't know therefore how long the Pax Americana will last, and therefore I can't say how long Pax Judaica will last, if they succeed with Pax Judaica.
Next one. Okay, my question was, a brother said recently that after the Malhama, a Muslim army will conquer Constantinople. Now a Christian army can't do that, but so the Orthodox Christians, they need the Muslims just as much as we need them. Could you explain more about that?
I'm glad that you asked that question about the conquest of Constantinople, because I have to admit that I was perhaps lazy, intellectually lazy, and that it was not an adequate analysis of the hadith that I have lived with for these last few years. I have said so many times, I don't see any significance in a conquest of Constantinople after the Malhama, other than a military significance, and that is that the Russian Navy will then be able to pass through the Bosphorus, because NATO, goodbye to NATO. But I'm now beginning to realize that no, there's more to it than I had thought, and that is that Constantinople is the most important city in the world for the Orthodox Christian after Jerusalem. And so the conquest of Constantinople after the Malhama must have more than military significance. It must have significance for relations between Islam and the Orthodox Christian world. And so now I would like to add to my analysis to say that the conquest of Constantinople, which is prophesied by Nabi Muhammad ﷺ, after the Malhama, will be meant to put the icing on the cake, to cement the alliance between Muslims and Orthodox Christians. That the city will unite us, between of us. And this will be the crowning event to fulfill what is in the Qur'an, where Allah says, "Ba'adawuzu billahi minash shaitani rajim, wala tajidanna aqrabahum mawaddatan lilladhina amanu alladhina qalu inna nasara ila akhir al-ayah." But I have already commented many times on this ayah of the Qur'an, so no need to do that now. Finally, I'm still thinking on the subject. It's a good thing, to think. Good thing. I'm still thinking on the subject, and we pray that Allah in His kindness may guide us all to more knowledge and understanding. Ameen. I'm still thinking now that if Constantinople is to be conquered, and the Christians are involved in that conquest of Constantinople, Dajjal will have a field day in uniting the whole world of Islam against the Christians. The Muslims will be taken for a ride. And so the conquest of Constantinople, which I had thought would be on the basis of an alliance between Muslims and Christians, no, I don't think so anymore. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "La taftahanna al-Constantiniya," and therefore he was referring to a Muslim army. La taftahanna, you will most certainly conquer Constantinople. So he's referring to a Muslim army conquering Constantinople. وَلَنِعْمَ الْأَمِيرُ آمِرُهَا وَلَنِعْمَ الْجَيْشُ ذَلِكَ الْجَيْشِ, he's referring to a Muslim army. So I have to revise my opinion. And I have to say and to advise to the Christian world to Russia and to the Balkans and so on, please do not intervene. You must stay aside and must not intervene at all. Let us do the work. We have to conquer the city without any Christian being involved in the battle. This is my message to Russia, and I hope Russia will hear me. This is my message to the Orthodox, to Greece, and to the Orthodox Christian world. Our Prophet has prophesied that a Muslim army will conquer Constantinople. After we have conquered Constantinople, then we will say to the Christian, this is your church, your cathedral, and we hand it back to them. And we then restore to the name of the city, the name of Constantinople. The Muslim-Christian alliance, therefore, is not the alliance that will conquer Constantinople. The Muslim-Christian alliance is the alliance that will conquer Jerusalem, inshallah.
Okay. Sheikh, will you answer? Next question by sister.
I just wanted to ask Sheikh about the, I just wanted to ask, recently the Trump administration is asking that Abu Dis be the capital of a future Palestinian state. But the Palestinian administration has already sold out most of the land to Israel, being Saeb Erekat, who's even now reneged on all the promises that they've made to the Palestinian people. Would it not be better then for the Palestinian people to actually be completely part of Israel, to be able to have some human rights and rights for themselves, rather than accept a capital like Abu Dis or somewhere in the West Bank rather than Jerusalem?
Explain to me the question. You didn't hear the question?
Yes, I heard the question.
Okay.
She's asking if for the Palestinian people wouldn't be better off living in a one-state solution under Israel, so at least they will get any human rights and within Israel if they're just resolute for now to live in a one-state solution in Israel.
The Palestinian people would be better off if they were to include now as part of their overall strategy, since Trump did what he did, to now focus not on East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state. No. Put that in a place that I fondly refer to as cold storage. And now come forward with a better strategy. That we, the Palestinian people, Christian and Muslim, say to you from the land of Palestine, that we now want to negotiate on Jerusalem. We're not concerned about the rest of Palestine at this time. We are concerned about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the front burner thanks to a man named Donald Trump. And our strategy is to say that Jerusalem is the most important city to the Christians of the world, and no one will defer that. And Jerusalem is the most important city for the Jews, and no one will defer with that. And we want to tell the world, for the Muslim in Akhir Zaman, Jerusalem is more important than Makkah and Medina. Right? And so, because we have 5 rupees of intelligence, and Donald Trump doesn't seem to have even 1 rupee of intelligence, and we feel sadness for the American people, we want to say to the American people, and we don't know whether CNN will convey this message, or the New York Times will convey this message, or the Washington Post will convey this message, or the London Times. So we are praying to the Lord God to send some pigeons who will take this message to you in America. That we are suggesting to you that the 3 faiths should share Jerusalem on the basis of political and religious equality and mutual respect for each other. And we hope that in offering this sensible and intelligent and wise solution, we'll not be offending anyone or stepping on any toes. What should be the legal framework is a matter which can be discussed subsequently. But our initial suggestion to the world today, thanks to Donald Trump, we thank you, Mr. President, is to say that the three faiths must share Jerusalem peacefully. Full stop. That is called strategy.
That's
Yes.
what I was saying, because at the moment, the Palestinian negotiator for so many years, Saeed Arafat, he gave the land away, so now Jerusalem should be of importance now.
They will not listen to me.
Yeah.
No, they will not listen to me. But the good news is that some of the young people here in Britain who graduated from the Darul Ulooms, that they might listen to me. And tomorrow you might have a galaxy of Islamic scholars here who will dazzle the world and teach the Palestinians a few lessons. Yeah.
It all comes from all your guidance anyway, so definitely.
This is strategy. And if you use this strategy, you put the Zionists on the defensive. Because it makes sense. We want to share the city in peace. We want to share the city, therefore, on the basis of political and religious equality and mutual respect. Let us then proceed to a legal framework for a city-state. For a city-state, a plural model of a city-state. Let the legal scholars work on the framework.
Very nice for a Muslim leader like Putin did when he reached out to the American people. He wrote an open letter to the American people when the Syrian chemical weapons, we had all the fiasco with the UN and the lies about who actually caused the so-called chemical attack. Putin actually checkmated America when he wrote the open letter to the American people explaining his actions, and it just endeared him to them. So if we could have even a Muslim representative actually speak up like this, and rather than the administration, because that's been selected, but to actually speak to the American people, and I think that would touch their hearts more.
The Russian president and the Russian foreign minister stand at their highest pedestal in the world today, with no Muslim leader, none, with the possible exception of Ayatollah Khamenei in Iran. None of them even close to the brilliance of statecraft of Russia today, and the brilliance of the president and of the foreign minister. Nothing. The United States has been left far behind by Russian diplomacy, yes. And I am a simple voice just suggesting to the world of Islamic scholarship, here is strategy. And Trump has given you the chance.
Yeah.
Now that he's made this stupid move, he's given you the chance. Do it now. Offer to the world, this is our solution. The Zionists will have no reply.
Thank you, Sheikh, for the answer. We'll just do one more question to end the session today.
Maulana, the Muslims don't recognize the importance of Jerusalem because of a hadith that is being propagated, that when you offer salah in the Haram, Makkah, it's